Misfits are one of the best bands ever. Top 50 all time, easily. They were the first punk rock band I ever got into as a kid, and through all these years I've never gotten tired of them. I am a card-carrying member of the Theme Club. I don't have a tattoo, but if I did, I would have to go for one of their iconic Crimson Ghost logo. The fact that this band's popularity has endured even though their classic run ended over 34 years ago, I think speaks to their timelessness. There's just something about them, whether it's the aggressive, crooning baritone of singer Glenn Danzig, the blood-spattered nihilistic lyrics of songwriter Glenn Danzig, or the absurdly epic anthemic shout-along hooks and choruses provided by frontman Glenn Danzig. This band has resonated with every generation of weirdos and assorted freaks since the beginning, since they first burst onto the scene straight out of Lodi, New Jersey in the late 70s. But wait, you say, Misfits weren't a 90s band. Why am I doing a video about them? Well, technically you'd be correct. The main creative force, visionary, and leader of the original Misfits lineup had nothing to do with their 90s output. And that's why I'm launching yet another new series, which I'm calling Their 90s Stuff. This is where I talk about musicians who, for one reason or another, are known mainly for the music that they made outside of the 90s. And in this case, there's a very good reason why this band is not primarily known for their 90s stuff. The story of how the Misfits morphed into a weird bastardization of themselves is a long and sordid one. The gist of it is, they were the little horror punk band that could. From 1977 to 1983, they toured the country, sporadically recording singles, EPs, and albums, all while rotating through an ever-revolving lineup alongside its two founding members, singer-songwriter Glenn Danzig, and bassist Jerry Caiafa, aka Jerry Only. At some point during this time, Jerry's brother Doyle joined the band on guitar, and remained a part of their lineup until they broke up. After the split, Danzig was in a band called Soin for a while, before launching a solo career in the band Danzig, pretty much leaving Jerry and Doyle out in the cold. Here's where the story gets weird. Apparently, Jerry and Doyle became born-again Christians, which if you're familiar with the Misfits' often blasphemous lyrics is hilarious, and started a Christian metal band called Christ the Conqueror. But they only recorded one EP, and their career never really gained too much momentum. Meanwhile, Danzig started to have a lot of mainstream success, which sparked interest in his earlier band. This is where the Misfits' cult following starts reaching critical mass. Their merchandise started showing up everywhere. Metallica and Guns N' Roses both recorded covers of their songs, and suddenly their work, much of which had long since gone out of print, or never even been released at all in some cases, became in much higher demand than it ever was during their actual existence, which led to a series of reissues which culminated in the release of a 1995 coffin-shaped box set, which purported to contain every studio track the Misfits had recorded up to that point. This era constituted the highest level of interest the general public had ever shown in the band, and it was only a matter of time before someone figured out that there was a market for this stuff. Someone who realized that the Misfits weren't so much a band as they were a brand at this point. Initially, Jerry only approached Glenn Danzig about earning a cut of their songwriting royalties for existing material. This led to Jerry and Doyle ending up suing for the rights to use the band's name and imagery, claiming they had been insufficiently credited for their contributions to the songs. Think a much smaller punk rock version of Pink Floyd's legal battles. In 1995, they settled out of court and reached an agreement that would allow them to perform and record new music under the band name, completely without the involvement of Danzig. Soon they would recruit a new singer named Michael Graves, Dr. Chud on the drums, and with that lineup in tow, they were signed to Geffen and released the album American Psycho in 1997. Now, I've always been struck by the fact that this album cover resembles an advertisement. Random track titles, an announcement that there's a poster included, and the well-worn horror iconography of the band, as if they're trying so hard to reassure you that this album is going to do justice to their legacy. This is all pretty rich coming from a group who built their reputation back in the day through confrontational live shows, intentionally provocative music, and sheer shock value. They weren't so much an anti-commercial band as they were an anti-social one. So what does the 1997 version of that scruffy, amateurish, often violently incompetent recording unit sound like? Well, I'll give them this. American Psycho contains the best-sounding production work of their career up to that point, courtesy of Daniel Ray. Some of those early recordings were almost unlistenably unpolished.
I remember Halloween. Point me to the sky above. I can't get there on my own. Walk me to the graveyard. Dig up her
So advantage 1, then. As for the songwriting, well, I'd say that's about equally a benefit and a drawback. The lucky thing is that they didn't have to bother to develop their own sound. The Misfits' songwriting formula is well established at this point. It's just that nobody in the band had anything close to the gift for melodic talent, catchy hooks and choruses that Glenn Danzig had. I mean, compare this.
I ain't no goddamn son of a bitch. You better think about it, baby. I ain't no goddamn son of a bitch. You better think about it, baby, baby.
To this. One can't help but feel a little lackluster compared to the other. But they do try, and the formula itself is pretty hard to screw up. 3 chords, fast tempos, horror and sci-fi themed lyrics, some woes. What do you need, a roadmap? And occasionally they do strike gold with it. I especially like the tracks Walk Among Us, From Hell They Came, Dig Up Her Bones, and Shining, which for some reason is about the plot to the film Poltergeist. The real Achilles heel of the album is the vocals. Danzig had a powerhouse set of pipes.
You think they really care? Let's go where we don't dare. We go where we don't dare.
And it's not fair to expect anyone to be able to fill his role. By comparison, Michael Graves comes off as more or less an anonymous punk rock vocalist, with neither the range nor the personality to be able to carry this band. With any other band, this wouldn't be such an issue, but for a band going around calling themselves the Misfits, this matters a lot. Their gimmick, rebellious B-movie, low-budget monster kids gone punk rock, was always a little juvenile and stupid. But that was fine when they had the tunes to back them up, delivered by a singer who could really sell the overt campiness with conviction. Take the tunes away and give it a less dynamic singer, and suddenly the inherent shakiness of the premise becomes exposed. Now in general, the shorter songs work better, which is saying something because very few of the songs even reach the 3-minute mark, but I do enjoy them more since they have less of a chance to wear out their welcome. Unfortunately, spread across 17 tracks plus a hidden 18th track at the end, the whole thing comes off sounding pretty stale. Punk is an inherently limited and minimalist form, and that becomes even more apparent when you apply the Misfits' specific template to it. Jerry and Doyle certainly haven't upgraded their playing style or their skills, with the exception of 1 or 2 songs where they sound more like Iron Maiden than classic Misfits. In short, American Psycho comes off like an inferior horror movie sequel, where the original star and director have left, but the franchise just continues to plod on anyway. Sure, it mostly delivers what you're expecting, but it just can't live up to the original. By the way, can we talk about that title, American Psycho? This album came out before the movie version. That means that they named it after the book by Bret Easton Ellis, which is not a horror novel, but a scathing satirical indictment of the mindless consumerism and obsession with status and wealth inherent in 80s yuppie culture. And also there's disgusting graphic violence and murder in it. But that's the part that the Misfits latch onto, taking the murdering psychopath bent completely at face value, which is next level missing the point. Also, did no one inform them that Patrick Bateman's music taste leaned more towards Whitney Houston, 80s Genesis, and Huey Lewis and the News? So the New Fits, or the Only Fits as they were derisively tagged by fans, followed up that album with the 1999 release Famous Monsters. I'm not going to dwell too much on this one because it's basically more of the same. Michael Graves' vocals get a little more distinctive here, and the songwriting takes a few more interesting detours, but it's still kind of a watered-down version of the Danzig era.
I was thinking about you, there was so
This lineup of the band ended up breaking up in 2001, but Jerry only kept right on making Misfits records with new members as if he was the mastermind behind the whole thing all along, keeping the brand alive. Eventually, Glenn Danzig and Doyle both returned to the band in 2016, and they played a series of shows reunited on stage for the first time since their 80s heyday. So what did we learn? For one thing, the Misfits are an idea, more so than a musical project, that can endure unstable lineup situations and misbegotten albums featuring almost zero original members in the lineup. As long as there are disaffected demon kids with questionable hygiene habits, there will always be an audience for their music. And the 90s proved to be no exception to that rule. I am Jacob, and this was their 90s stuff. I'll see you sometime in the future.